Así que, so here we start. Once again, let me check. Okay. So we are going to start checking the community language learning approach by watching Diane Larsen Freeman's video. Please try to complete the more information you could watch in this video and this Jamboard about the community language learning approach, design, and procedure. Okay, so let's listen to Larsen Freeman.
Next, we will see a demonstration of a method called Community Language Learning, or CLL. Based upon the more general counseling learning approach to adult education developed by Charles Curran, CLL calls upon teachers to become skillful understanders of their learners as whole persons. Adult education developed by Charles Curran, CLL calls upon teachers to become skillful understanders of
This is, we may say, the first method that perceives students as a whole person. So this is like the first method to consider the student as the center of the learning process.
their learners as whole persons. Becoming a skillful understander means recognizing and accepting the struggles students face as they attempt to internalize another language. Watch how whole person learning is put into practice in the CLL demonstration lesson by my colleague, Bonnie Manel.
What we're going to be beginning today, and we're going to work for 2 days on our homes, our houses, apartments, wherever it is that we live. And I'm going to be asking you to think about your home. Now, you probably want to think about the home in your country, unless you really feel that you've been in this country long enough that you really have a home here. In that case, you can think about your home here. But otherwise, when I ask you to think of your home, try to sort of let your mind go back to your country, to your town, countryside, wherever it is you live, and see your own house. And then we're going to work on some of the vocabulary that you need to describe your home. And so we'll be working on pronunciation and intonation in describing our homes today. So as I said, we're going to begin with you thinking about your home. So use your mind's eye and kind of go back and see your house or apartment, whatever it is you live in. Some of you can close your eyes if you want to, if it makes it a little bit easier, right, instead of being here in the classroom. But just see that place where you live and see what's around it, what's outside. Feel the temperatures, the smells, everything that goes with your house. Walk inside and go through all the different rooms that you have in your home. And as you're walking through those rooms, you'll probably see a lot of objects and things.
So this strategy is to ask students to start imagining their homes and how the furniture and all those places are distributed around their homes. So the first part is like, we may say, as an introduction, sensitize students towards the topic.
That give you certain feelings and emotions. And maybe even people, the people who live in the house. Okay? Now, with that sort of picture in your mind, I'd like you to turn to the person who's sitting next to you and describe your home. And you really want them to have the same picture in their mind that you have in yours. Okay? So just turn to the person who's next to you and describe your home to them. Okay? So we've got 2 here, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. 2, 2, 2. Okay, we have to have a 3 right here. Okay? Okay, would you join this group here? Rosie? Okay, who's going to join you as a threesome? Okay? Thank you. We didn't have many things, but the things that we have were very nice.
So here the strategy is that students start speaking. They need to communicate in target language, and then what they are going to communicate, meaningful information. But why meaningful information? Well, in this case, it's something that they really like, that they are concerned about, and something that they know. That's why we may say meaningful language.
I live with friends from other countries, and we share all.
We are living in African family, you know.
They will take 1 more minute.
In this way, students can not only interact among themselves, but also they can learn about the other. This is another important issue of this method. By oral communication, you can not only express and develop some skills in the target language, but you can know a little bit more about the other.
Okay, you need to come back to the classroom. I know some of you are very far away. Right, okay. What I'd like you to do is take just a moment now, and on the piece of paper you have, think about some of the words, some of the special words you need in order to really describe your home. So it might be words for particular rooms that are very important to you, or a feeling, a word that describes a feeling or a thought or how it looks. And just try to list some of the words that you would need to use in describing your house. You've probably been using them already, but try to capture the very special words. So just make a list for yourself on your paper. Just try to write as many as you can. Just keep writing. Just words. Okay, that's probably got you thinking. I'm sure you could keep adding to that list. What I'd like us to do now is, you've been thinking individually and you've been writing your words down. On the board, we're going to make a collection of some of your words, with everybody contributing words.
That's the key word that the professor said, contributing with different words. This is the moment where students are taking part of the learning process. So the teacher is only guiding them in this case. Obviously, the teacher is the one who is like setting the tasks, but in this case, teacher is only leading, but she is not taking responsibility of students' learning. Rather, students are the ones who take responsibility of their own learning process.
That you would like to work on. Remember, I said we were going to work on pronunciation, and then being able to take some of these words and use them in sentences. Right? So if you'll call out your word, I'll write it on the board, and we'll keep going until we can fill up the board with words.
Clean. Clean.
Clean. Okay. Next one?
Fence.
Fence.
Pacific place. Pacific place.
Okay, as in the ocean?
No.
Peaceful.
Yes, peaceful.
Warm.
Okay, so peaceful. Comfortable. Warm, I heard?
Location.
Located. Okay, you want location or just located?
Located.
Okay.
Share.
Alrighty, but let's take a look at the ones that we have up here on the board right now. And I want you to just take a moment and yourself read through all of the words that are on the board and see if there are any on there that you're not sure of the meaning. first just read silently. Then if there are any questions, we'll look at the meaning. So everyone just read.
Clean.
And just... Okay, let's start, and I'll just run my hand down, and if there are any words that you want to make sure you understand the meaning of. Okay?
Second word.
Okay. Fence. Can someone describe a fence for us? Okay, a fence divides one thing from another. Okay, sometimes we have a fence between two houses. Okay. We have a fence around a garden to keep the animals out.
Is it always outside?
Okay, is a fence always outside?
Yes. Most general. To limit.
How many people have a fence around their house? What is it made out of? Wood? Wire? Iron sometimes? A fence out of trees? We call that a...
Check how students have contributed with different words, with different expressions, and then now the teacher is the one who is asking students to start creating their sentences. But the first part is to create their sentences only in spoken form.
A hedge. Okay. So a fence that's really bushes or trees is called a hedge. Okay? All right. Okay, other?
Cozy.
Cozy. What does that mean?
Comfortable.
Nice. Okay, comfortable, warm. Okay, and usually small. Okay. Sometimes in my house, the kitchen is the cozy room. It's warm, it's small, very relaxed. What's the most cozy room in your houses?
Bedroom.
Is it a small room? Is it a small room?
Yes.
It's warm, okay. Because it's very important, usually with the word cozy, that it has this sense of very small, very intimate, okay, where you're very relaxed. Small and comfortable, yes, both. Okay, so it's a very special word for that. Okay, as I said, we're going to work with these now for pronunciation, all right? And we're going to do that in a way that's a little bit different, perhaps, than some of the ways that you've worked with pronunciation. You're going to be the ones who are saying the words, and I'm going to be the one who's repeating the words. You're in control, okay? And the first way we're going to do that is we're going to do it chorally, meaning you can all say the words. And we'll start with the first word, and we'll go down the list. You say the word as the group, and then I will say the word. Then you say the next word, and I will say the word. Okay? All right, so I'm repeating after you. Okay? And I'm going to go behind you. So you're looking up here. You're only listening to me. Okay? So let me get back there first. Okay, we want to read the first word?
Clean.
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 No, don't fence.
Peaceful.
Peaceful.
Warm.
Then the pronunciation activity is starting from all the different words. Now the emphasis is on pronunciation.
Warm. Comfortable.
Cozy.
Cozy.
Quiet.
Okay, let's do the flowers first. Flowers.
Flowers.
Quiet. Large.
Huge.
Huge.
Big.
Okay, let's go to big first.
Big.
Big. Now you can do it individually. And if you would like to work on the pronunciation of one of the words up there, just raise your hand, then say the word, and I'll repeat the word, If you want to say it again, you can say the word again, and I'll repeat the word again. If you want to say it again, I'll say the word again. I'm like a computer. I'm going to keep saying the word the way I normally would say it. And if you want to keep practicing with the computer, you can. If you want to stop the computer, you have to stop. Okay, because I'm repeating after you. All right? Okay, so just raise your hand and then begin, and we'll work with quite a number of people. Okay? All right? Here?
Comfortable.
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 That's okay.
Cozy.
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 Cozy. Sure.
Okay.
Okay, back here.
Warm.
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 Warm. What I'd like you to do now is write a sentence. Okay? Write a sentence about your home. Try to use some of these words that we've been working on, or perhaps you have another word on your paper that was very important to you. But write a sentence that in some way describes or tells us something about your home. And then we're going to work with your sentences just like we worked with the words. Okay, so you get a chance to say the sentence. It can be short, it can be long, up to you. It's your choice. Okay, so one sentence. One sentence. As I said, I'm going to be the computer in the same way, except this time I'm going to stay up here. And when you read your sentence, I'm going to repeat your sentence. But you might notice there might be some...
This is another type of strategy for enhancing students' good pronunciation. First of all, they need to attempt to pronounce, and then teacher is going to model. So students have the model, and then they can correct by themselves.
some differences between your sentence and my sentence. If you want to repeat your sentence the way I said it or the way you said it, you can again, and then I'll repeat. We'll go back and forth if you want. Okay? All right. So again, if you want to read your sentence, raise your hand. Okay? Okay? Right up here, Chris.
My apartment has 2 huge bedrooms, 1 living room, and 1 cozy kitchen.
Okay. That's a long one for me. My apartment has 2 huge bedrooms, a kitchen,
1 living room,
a living room,
and 1 cozy kitchen.
and 1 cozy kitchen. Okay, let me see if I can get that all together. My apartment has 2 huge bedrooms, a cozy kitchen,
1 living room,
a living room,
and 1 cozy kitchen.
and a cozy kitchen. Okay, my apartment has 2 huge bedrooms, a living room, and a cozy kitchen.
We share a small yard with neighbors.
We share a small yard with neighbors. I'd like to take the last few minutes just to ask you how you felt about the lesson. I wanted to tell you one more thing, though, for tomorrow.
Check now, this is the other part of this method. Teacher cares for students' learning. That's why teacher is asking how they felt.
Tomorrow, what I'll be doing is I'm going to collect your words and the sentences that you wrote, and we'll come in and we'll work with the rest of those words and the rest of the sentences. So we might not have gotten to your sentence, but we're going to use that as our material for class tomorrow. All right, so make sure you give those to me before you leave today. Right? And then just as I said, the last couple of minutes, I wanted to ask you how you felt about the work that we did today in class.
This is a very interesting method for learning English.
Mm-hmm.
I am very comfortable.
Mm-hmm. What made you comfortable?
Excuse me?
What made you feel comfortable?
Feel comfortable.
You're not sure, but you just felt.
But very.
I felt also comfortable because reasons I could know the purpose, but now I'm studying, so it was easy for me.
Uh-huh. So understanding what we were doing, what the
Yes.
purpose was, helped you to relax and to study
Yes.
the lesson.
in the class was very, very, very practical, I think. Very practical.
So useful
Yeah, very
things that
useful.
you're studying.
Yes, I think that it's very good because people can express the feelings, and at the same time it's interesting because you can think of many things, and for the vocabulary you can learn a lot because maybe I know some word but other people know other, and we can share, and in this way it's very very nice, increase the vocabulary. And I agree about the other opinion about the relaxed time. You don't feel pressure. You feel okay. You can talk and express. And so and sometimes people can express, and for me, to me, it's important.
Those are two things that really struck you. One, a lot of the words were new, but they came from your fellow students.
Exactly.
And also not feeling pressure allowed you to feel relaxed and to learn.
I have a question. Today we studied the vocabulary, but I want to know where are we going to study grammar and how you do.
So your concern is where's the grammar, right? Grammar maybe makes you feel secure. And when it's not there, you're not so secure.
It's very important.
Okay. So that's a very important thing for you to feel secure about your learning in the class, the grammar.
I learn grammar, and at the same time I talk.
Notice how still is worrying about grammar. Where is grammar? That's the question, where is grammar? So listen to this person.
I share with my roommate. The method is very active, and I feel very comfortable, very sure.
So you feel kind of comfortable feeling that you are working on your grammar when you're speaking with your roommate about things.
Listening at the same time.
So it was comfortable for you. Okay, this last comment here.
I appreciate these classes because it shows the African way of teaching, and I think with this way we learn quickly because we have practice in.
So you felt that this methodology was very American,
yes,
that we use today
because
in class.
we practice, and if you practice, you keep everything in your mind.
So that goes along with learning the language too. Right. Well, thank you very much. There is time if you have things that you'd like to talk to me about after class, after we break, because some of you need to go now. So thank you. Remember to give me...
You may have noticed that the teacher began the lesson by telling students what they were going to be doing for the class. The teacher does this, recognizing that any new learning experience can be threatening. When students have an idea of what will happen in each class, they often feel more secure.
Notice this part. People learn best when they feel secure. That is why at the beginning of the lesson the teacher said, well, students, today we are going to watch this, that, and those.
People learn best when they feel secure. What came next in the lesson was the teachers inviting the students to first visualize and then to describe their homes. Each student was given a time limit, and towards the end of the activity was reminded that they had only 1 minute left. Setting and enforcing time limits also enhances student security. Afterwards, they listed the words they needed for the descriptions. Kern believed that students should be given an opportunity to assert themselves, to be actively involved, and to invest themselves in the learning experience. One of the ways of allowing for this is for the students to have the responsibility for generating the language they learn.
So that's the moment when students play an important role. They should have, as it says here, the opportunity to generate the language they wish to learn. Obviously, the teacher is the one who is going to lead it, but students are the one who need to generate the language they wish to learn.
Wish to learn or to work on. The students next inquired about the meaning and practiced the pronunciation of the words they had listed. You may recall that the teacher stood behind the students as she read the words after them. This is done in the belief that the superior knowledge and power of the teacher can be threatening. If the teacher does not remain in front of the classroom, the threat is reduced and the students can focus their full attention on the words in front of them. When the students practiced the words individually, they chose which words they wished to have the teacher repeat, an exercise termed the human computer. The students control the computer. They can turn the computer off any time. The students learn to discriminate, to listen carefully to see if what they are saying matches what the teacher is saying. The students were next asked to use the new words to make their own sentences. As the teacher repeated each student's sentence, she corrected it, never overtly, but rather by repeating the sentence correctly in a non-threatening.
So here the strategy is to say the sentence in the correct way. So the teacher is not correcting directly the student, but the student needs to be aware of how he can self-correct.
Threatening manner. The last part of the lesson was devoted to a feedback session in which the students reflected on what they had experienced and felt during the lesson. The teacher listened and showed each student she understood what each.
The last part of the lesson, teachers should understand what the students are feeling. That's why the teacher asks, how do you feel this lesson?
Each one was feeling. In this way, students have an opportunity to feel accepted as whole persons, to learn about their own learning, in addition to learning about the language.
So here, as you could notice, that's the first method in which students are the protagonist of their learning process. You see why I really insist on saying that silent way, total physical response, and Suggestopedia, students are not the protagonist, but the cognitive process of learning. Students' cognitive process of learning was the protagonist on total physical response. Suggestopedia, silent way. In contrast, community language learning, student is the main actor. He or she plays the main role. Could you notice the difference? So now we are going to review what you could write here. Okay. Teacher asks students the interest, students write what they remember. Writing exercise, teacher understands students' feelings. That's another key issue. Language learning is faster in a group than individual. Language as a social process. Yes, definitely. All right. That was the final part of these methods with the community language learning. Any comment or question about this method? Something that you may have found interesting, curious about that?
Me, teacher.
Yes, let me know.
When I saw this method, I could feel a good environment in the classroom. So the most important thing and interest I saw in this kind of method is the students, how the students feel comfortable learning, and the teacher most emphasize in feelings and students' feelings.
That's why now I insist on saying community language learning is the first method in which student plays the important role. It's the main actor. I agree with you, Josue. Thank you so much for your comment. Anyone else? Anyone else who may want to share what you notice about this method, something that you found interesting, curious about that?
Well, I didn't see a form of repetition or students mimicking the teacher. The students are the ones that have to correct themselves and figure out the way they have the best way they can pronounce each word or make a logical sentence.
I agree with you, Exxon. Students need to correct themselves. They have the model, but the teacher is not going to say, like the previous method, hey, that's the way you need to repeat. That's the way you need to pronounce. No. Student dares to speak, to pronounce. And then the human computer, the professor, is the one who is going to read again the sentence that the student produced, and then the teacher is going to provide the correct way of pronouncing. So student needs to be aware how they can correct themselves. Definitely. Meanwhile, I'm going to call the roll. 29. Of September. Exxon. America. Here. Thank you. America. Present. Thank you. Laura. Present. Okay. Laura Sinaí. Yep. Alexander. Josué.
Present.
Thank you. Diana Laura. Kira.
Present.
Thank you. Esther.
Present.
Thank you. Sandra. Antonio. Daniel. Sara. Eduardo. Lupita. Ok, Daniel.
Presente.
Ok. Ángeles.
Presente.
Gracias. Cindy. Cindy Yamilet. Okay. So now we are going to watch how you can develop your lesson plan. However, I would like to mention that the lesson plan you are going to design is not going to include a variety of activities. So here what you need to focus is only on one, we may say one linguistic skill or one linguistic subskill. That's the first step you need to think about. No nos vamos a enfocar en diseñar toda una clase completa de hora y media, 2 horas. No. A lo mucho, su clase va a durar 20 minutos. Uno de los desafíos cuando por primera vez van ustedes a solicitar trabajo y como maestros, es de que presenten una clase modelo. Resulta que esa clase modelo solamente les va a durar 20 minutos. Entonces tienen ustedes que enfocarse solamente en una sola habilidad lingüística que desarrollar. Miren, primero comienzo compartiendo en Geminus. Aquí está la indicación. A ver, díganme si... ¿Ya se ve? Ya verá.
Sí, ya se ve.
Ok. Todo lo que han visto ahorita es teórico. Ahora es momento de ponerlo en práctica. Ustedes lo van a desarrollar ya sea en sus mismos grupos o si quieren subdividirse de los grupos. Ustedes lo deciden. En esta sesión, en realidad, ustedes van a decidir cuál de los métodos les gustaría, con cuál de los métodos les gustaría diseñar su clase. Insisto, no es que vayan ustedes a dar una clase explicando el método, no. Tomando en cuenta las técnicas, las estrategias, el tipo de actividades, tomando en cuenta esa información, ustedes diseñarán su clase de 20 minutos. Y esa clase debe de enfocarse en que se muestren las estrategias, técnicas, este tipo de actividades, tipo de material que caracteriza al método que ustedes hayan seleccionado. Vean, se requiere pensar 3 actividades que se relacionen con la perspectiva teórica y las técnicas de enseñanza que se establecen en el método que ustedes seleccionaron. Dichas 3 actividades se tienen que distribuir así. Una actividad para presentar el tópico, el tema, ¿no? Una actividad para practicar el tema. Una actividad para producir con el tema. El tema se relaciona con algún aspecto lingüístico relacionado, por ejemplo, con la vida cotidiana. Ya sea a través de una actividad de gramática o de vocabulario, o de pronunciación, o de lectura, o de escritura, o de listening, o de speaking. Ustedes van a decidir de cuál de esas habilidades. Tienen que seleccionar el language item y la habilidad o sistema lingüístico bajo el cual ustedes desarrollarán su lección. Total de tiempo que tienen es de 20 minutos. Así que entonces más o menos lo distribuyen como 5 minutos para la presentación, 5 minutos para la práctica y 10 minutos para la producción. Dentro de esos 10 minutos de la producción, ustedes necesitan al menos 2 minutos para revisar en plenaria las respuestas que dieron los alumnos. Recuerde, por favor, que tienen que desarrollar todos los materiales o en su caso que los hayan conseguido en internet, acuérdense de darle la referencia APA como se debe a dicho material. De ahí la 7. Desarrolle su plan de clase en la sección correspondiente. O sea, aquí, en esta sección, aquí lo van a ustedes a entregar. Los objetivos y son los pasos que tú seguirás para lograr el propósito de tu lección. Sí, definitivamente. Ahora les quiero mostrar un ejemplo de una planeación. Comentarios, dudas, preguntas respecto a esto que tienen ustedes que realizar. La sección de microsesión. A ver, les escucho. ¿Alguna duda o comentario antes de que prosiga con la explicación del plan?
Pues bueno, yo tenía una pequeña duda acerca de eso porque escuché que dijo que se tenía que entregar, entonces también tenemos que entregarlo escrito antes de hacer de presentarlo en la clase o cómo sería.
Hacen por escrito su plan de clase.
Ajá.
Lo muestran
Ya.
ahí mismo en la clase y ya después enseguida empiezan a enseñar su clase. O sea, son esas dos etapas. Yo redacto mi plan de clase, lo expongo, y una vez expuesto, ahora sí ya doy mi clase con base a ese plan.
Gracias, profe.
Claro, a la orden. ¿Alguien más? ¿Alguna otra duda o comentario que tengan, por favor? Entonces les voy a mostrar un video que yo mismo produje para que vean la manera. Espérenme, aquí está. En cómo se puede diseñar una planeación al estilo presentación, práctica, producción, que es justamente lo que les acabo de mencionar. Van a hacer presentación, práctica, producción. Ese enfoque de planeación es el que ahorita les voy a presentar. Pero que le tengo que incluir sonido de el equipo. Ajá. De nuevo. Incluir sonido del equipo. Que se despliegue la ventana. A ver. ¿Dónde estás? Aquí estás. Permítanme. EPP lesson plan. But first, before you start designing the lesson plan, you have to bear in mind the aspects that you may consider that are important to design your lesson. So remember, designing a lesson is like to create a craft. Why? Because you, as the crafter, have something in mind. But what do you have in mind? Basically, these two questions. What is my procedure? So how I'm going to proceed to develop my lesson. But also, what are the aims of the lesson? So what do you pretend your students get from being exposed to your lesson? That's the other thing that you have to bear in mind. And basically, it's something very important for designing your lesson. So with that idea in mind, now we are going to start designing the lesson plan. So first here, you have to write the ideal name of the group. Now, for instance, that's my group of 504 and the date that I'm going to teach the lesson, then basically the time. So I'm going to adjust to say that my 504 group has lessons from 17 hours to 17:50. So you have 50 minutes to give your lesson. So, and I say that for our lesson, only 20 minutes. I've got only 15 students. So the recent topic work, before I'm going to teach that, I have the knowledge that I previously taught to my students, the topic of third conditional. Sorry, that's the recent language work. Third conditional, and the recent topic was about regrets. So here, when you talk about the topic, is the general aspect in which you use the particular aspect. What do I mean by that? Basically, here the topic is the linguistic aspect, the sociolinguistic aspect in which you are going to use a linguistic issue. So in this case, the language work, the emphasis is on third conditional, and then I say that for using third conditional, my topic is to talk about regrets. You see? And then there are two aspects, aims and objectives. So here in the aspect of aims is what you want your students achieve. So in this case, what I want my students achieve is to apply grammar rules for using conditional types 1, 2, and 3 in the development of mixed conditional sentences. So here notice how my emphasis is on a grammar aspect. The grammar aspect is the development of mixed conditional sentences. Now, the other aspect, how I'm going to make sure my students get the aim, that's the objective. So here I have to think about how I'm going to do so that my students develop mixed conditional sentences. So first, review conditional types structures. Letter B. Identify the conditional structures in mixed conditional sentences. And obviously, write mixed conditional sentences appropriately. So here notice how the objectives are the specific actions I'm going to develop so that I can get my general aim. You see what I mean?
Yes.
And then here in the assessment, how I'm going to assess, how I'm going to make sure my students get the aim. So basically it's direct observation on the conventions, in this case grammar conventions, for writing mixed conditional sentences. But also I can say that it's peer assessment in which students evaluate themselves the correctness of the sentences. I mean with the correctness of the sentences, the correct application of grammar rules to write mixed conditional sentences.
The materials are, obviously, when you apply that in a classroom, are basically your whiteboard, any other probably handouts or worksheets, and all that stuff. Anticipate the problems. Probably students get confused when applying grammar rules to write coherent mixed conditional sentences. So that's what I anticipate as a problem. And here is what I have to bear in mind, how I'm going to approach that part. Then those are the stages of the lesson plan. The warm-up, presentation, practice, production. So here what I'm going to do is also to divide in teacher activity and students activity. So I'm going to make sure that my students are going to achieve the aim of this stage and also what is the aim of that stage. So here I'm going to write from the right to the left. So starting with the aim of the lesson. So in this case, students get first approach to mixed conditional sentences. So here the success indicator, it's only based on how students recognize some of the conditionals. Students recognize some conditional structures in mixed conditional sentence. Here, teacher writes on the board three mixed conditional sentences. Which previously were spoken by the teacher. And here the student, what does the student do? What does students do? Here, students listen to the teacher and observe, or maybe and read the three sentences written on the board. Now, in the stage of presentation.
A ver, hasta ahorita, ¿alguna duda o comentario sobre cómo es que se va definiendo, cómo se va complementando cada una de las columnas que integran este plan de clase? Y a su vez también, si tienen alguna duda o comentario respecto a qué es lo que se tiene que hacer en la planeación, que ustedes van a hacer de 20 minutos. Les escucho. Les escucho, estoy aquí. Nada.